bring value to each other and the communities that we're a part of.
Roxbury Women means strength.
Incorporate in what is not. This is how we learn about ourselves and about our world and how to treat each other. So I think we can learn a lot of that from history. I have gleaned 5 messages from the history of Boston that I'll put out to you tonight. Many of you here probably are interested in changing something about the world, whether it's local or it is global. And lesson number 1 is going to come up right now. I don't know, have you ever heard of this woman from Western Massachusetts? Elizabeth Preman. She lived in Sheffield, Mass. And she was not free. But in her work, in her travels, she had heard about a newly adopted piece of legislation. You might see it right way down here. The Massachusetts Constitution, the oldest written constitution still being used on the planet. And it starts off with these words, that all men and women are born free and equal, and that they have the right to defend their lives and liberties. And you know what Elizabeth Preman thought? She thought this applied to her. And rather than stay in her situation, she got up the courage, obviously a very strong woman, and she walked out, left. Went to a neighboring farmstead where lived a lawyer named Theodore Sedgwick, and he took up her case, and they sued for her freedom based on the new Constitution. The first real law in 150 years that was pro-freedom for people in Elizabeth's condition. And she sued and she won. And the precedent in that case was picked up in more cases by African Americans pressing for their freedom until the state Supreme Court abolished slavery in 1783. And it all started with Elizabeth Preman. And one thing that we can learn from her is, people probably came up to her and constantly were telling her, the world is as it is for a reason. There is a place for everyone, and everyone is in their place. You should not try to change it. You should not go against the natural order of things. It's all in your head. You're crazy. And if you are going to go out there and try to change anything, you're going to come up against people who are telling you you're crazy. So lesson number 1, if you can move the slide, you're not crazy. All right, I'm telling you that right now. Every time you go to change something, you're really going up against systems and organizations, and these are run by people who are invested in them, who take care of them and keep them going. So you're going to have to work with them. And you're going to need friends and allies. That's our next slide. Friends and allies. And I wanted to tell you a story from the North End that can tell you the difference when you're trying to change things about friends and allies. So on the next slide, if you would please, we'll talk about friends. There's a group of Africans living in the North End in the late 1600s. And this group in 1693 formed the first black church in the town of Boston. 1693. And this is a group of friends, right? They share the same core beliefs. They are there to support each other, to nourish each other, to encourage each other. They know what each other has been through and is going through. And this document is the constitution for their organization, to be found at the Library of Congress. But they also needed an ally. 1693, Massachusetts is still part of England's imperial system, and they needed someone who could help them. And so they turned to the most powerful man in the neighborhood, perhaps one of the most powerful people in Massachusetts. And he's on the next slide. And his name is the Reverend Dr. Putnam. And he's not a friend. He's an ally. He has a common goal. Here's one of the many, he published over 400 books and pamphlets and sermons in his lifetime. And here's just one of them from the year 1706. He's interested in spreading the good word. And this group of friends in the North End are interested in the same thing. So they go out and they talk to Reverend Mather to get his knowledge. When you have an ally, you have information, other perspectives, knowledge, and you also get resources. He agreed to help them and actually loaned them his own church building, the second church in Boston, for the next 35 years, till he passed on. He also went out of his way to pay the expenses expenses for school for children of color at the North End who could not afford or were excluded from the existing schools. But again, this is, I mean, you've heard the name before, Cotton Mather. If he were alive today in our world, there's no way he would not be a racist and many other things. He used to, in his late teens, he resolved to say silent prayers for people when he was walking down the street. He would say it was just between him and the Lord. They didn't know about it. So if he passed a merchant busy at work, he would say, Lord, to himself, Lord, make that merchant a wise merchant. And if he saw a group of teenagers on the street, he would say, Lord, help these young people remember their Creator in the days of their youth. And if he passed a black person on the street, he would pray silently and say, Lord, wash that poor soul white in the blood of thy Son. Let that sink in for a second. This is not a friend, but he is an ally. And what's more, this group, the first black church group in Boston, when they approached him and got his support, what they were getting was his resources, his knowledge, and his protection. In colonial Boston, if Cotton Mather said that you were all right, no one could touch you. Pretty smart. So that's it, friends and allies. What's on the next slide? Number 4 of the 5. You will face opposition. This we've seen over and over throughout history. You will face opposition. I want to tell you another brief story from Boston. On the next slide, if you wouldn't mind, please. A woman named Mariah Stewart. I don't know if you ever heard of her. Like me, she was born in Connecticut and moved to Boston in her early 20s. And once she was in Boston, she became, by the year 1831, the first, the theme here is invented here, right? This is the first woman in the country of any background to get up and speak in public on politics, to get up and speak to men and women on political issues, to try to goad them towards change. This is in the 1830s. And so on the next slide, we'll see something that she was asking about, something that's very relevant here tonight. If you wouldn't mind moving the slide along, please. I'm just going to walk upstairs. So here's one of the things that she was asking for. And to us, it might seem innocuous, trivial, old-fashioned. She wanted every female heart to become united. In this instance, to raise money and perhaps in 18 months or 2 years have enough to start a high school for girls, for black girls. And notice the year, 1831. Boston, 10 years before, had only just started one of the country's first high schools for white boys. So for her to get up here and say, we need one for black girls, was astonishing in her day. And she kept pushing, and she kept pushing. And eventually, her main audience was the black community. And she got up in front of the Prince Hall Masons in their lodge, which was on Cambridge Street in the Old West End. And she looked around the room and she said, and I see a lot of older men here, distinguished men, gray-haired men, 60, 70 years old, who've accomplished things in their lives, but I have a question for you. Why haven't you done more? Let's get to the bottom of why you haven't done more. On the next slide, actually quoting her, she said, is it blindness of mind? In other words, are you stupid? Stupidity of soul? Are you just ignorant? You want an education? What is it? I'll help you. If you truly want to change things and make a difference in your community, let me help you, because you look stupid. And within a year of making this, she had to leave Boston. She moved to New York, and eventually to Washington, D.C., where she was a teacher and a social worker. She was too outrageous. But one thing for Boston, too edgy for Boston, but one thing we can learn from her is that you will face opposition, sometimes from your own community. Don't be surprised. Amen. Thank you. What's on the next slide? The last one. Whatever you choose to do, if you're out there changing healthcare, changing public policy, changing education, you will have to work at it for years. You don't just wake up and and become a success overnight. It doesn't usually happen. The good news is there are already people who have been out there working on it for a very long time. So you can join them. You don't have to start from scratch. And some of the people that we should remember when we're here, Women of Roxbury, this is the Snowden Auditorium, right? The Muriel Snowden Auditorium. So on the next slide, we can actually see Muriel Snowden and Monique Cass. If you haven't heard of them, I don't know where you live because their names are all over the place. But these are people who spent decades working on civil rights, greater access to education, a greater improvement in the Roxbury community. But really, these are women who left Boston better than when they found it. And they didn't stop. Do you see how old Monique Cass was when she passed? She was in her early 20s when women got the right to vote in this country. Talk about something that took a long time, by the way. But they kept going. And there are a couple more women on the next slide, which hopefully you'll recognize. Elma Lewis and Ruth Baxter. You do recognize them. You are from here. Obviously, NAACP, National Center of Afro-American Artists, METCO, the Museum of African American History, the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, and the list goes on and on and on. But these, you have the same phones I do. You should Google them if you don't know more. But if we go to the next slide, you'll see that they founded institutions that are still with us.
That's right.
Still with us, still doing hard work, still out there day after day after day. So if you are feeling like you don't know where to start, the Women of Roxbury have already given you quite a start. You can just go join right in. Finally, I don't remember who's on the last slide. Yes, Mariah Stewart, getting back to her. She asked a question almost 200 years ago. How long must the fair daughters of Africa not live up to their full potential? The full potential of their minds, their wits, their genius. And she answered it. I think it's an appropriate answer for the gathering tonight, which I think she would have enjoyed. And she said the answer is until union, knowledge, and love begin to flow among us. And I think that's a good way to end. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Contact with other humans in this space is amazing. And it's nothing short of a miracle.